Okay, hello. Let's see this. Hello, welcome. Yeah, sorry I'm a bit late. I had some technical difficulty with my internet, and I had to restart everything and move the room twice, so it's been a bit in my car. But yeah, here we are now. I'm up and running. I hope everybody can hear me. Yeah, maybe if you can just pop a hello there on the chat, on the live chat, just so I can see that you can hear me. Or if you've got any questions or any comments while we're busy, just pop it into the live chat, and then every now and then I'll basically just check in there and see what we can do in terms of answering those questions. Okay, so let us start. So basically, what I want to do today, if I'm don't want to be too long. I want to be 30 or 40 minutes max. I think that's worst case. I just want to basically go through a beginner type of tutorial in terms of how to do lookups, because I think that's something that I often get asked about, um, and yeah, it's something that I think we need to be able to address. So let me just quickly switch over. I'm going to switch off my camera, or just move it out of the way so that you can actually see a little bit more of the screen. There we go. So now let's get started and straight into it. So what I will do is I will post after this video's up. I will post a link to this Excel file. I'll upload it onto OneDrive and post a link. So if you want to go and just watch the video again and get some exercises, or just repeat what I've done, then that is fully to your disposal. Okay, so I just want to quickly just run through a couple of basics, which is important in terms of understanding how lookups work. So what I've done is I've just gotten a file here. It's a fairly substantial file. I think it's about 10,000 lines on it. So if I go there, now it's about 9,994 lines of data on it. It's got one line. So if I look at the data, you can see there's no gaps. There's no spaces in the middle. It's nice and consistent. The data looks to be all ordered in, so those are all column, the entire column is order IDs. If I go with my key to the bottom, see it goes up to row 9995, and it's all of it looks exactly the same. So that's very important, is you need to make sure that the data that you start off with is at least clean. I think, and I read an interesting statistic the other day in terms of data analysis, and they say that data analysis is about 80% data scrubbing. So it takes 80% of the effort is to get the data to look like this, to look more or less in line, all the columns have all the information. There's no blank columns in between, because often you'll find that people leave spaces in between. You'll see this, and then they very cleverly hide it so you can't even see it, because they want it to look pretty. Now, Excel has got many features to make things look pretty, so doing it this way is the wrong way, unfortunately. So I'm just going to delete that column. Okay, so let's quickly get started. So there's 3, maybe 4 things that I want to cover today. I'm going to go ahead and just create a new sheet here. So the first thing that I'm just going to rename the sheet. I'm going to call it match. So the match function, I'm going to just type it out here. The match function, what is it useful? It's useful if you want to know, is something on the sheet. It's simple enough. And if you maybe want to know where, sorry, my keyboard is a bit laggy, where something is on the sheet. Okay, so let's sketch a scenario. Scenario is, I want to know, so if I look at this order, let's quickly look at the first one on the list. It's maybe the best. I'm going to start at the top. So if I look at this order, I want to know, has this order been returned? So here's a sheet with the name returns. So if I click on that sheet, you'll see it's literally just a list of order numbers. It says this is the order number and it has been returned. So if I want to know, has this order been returned, yes or no? That's the question that I'm asking myself. So the match function is the most lightweight one, and it's a nice introduction to other VLOOKUP functions or lookup functions. So it's something I would recommend you just start off with it to play with, to understand how lookups work. So how the match function work, and what I'm going to do is insert a new column for myself so we can see. Maybe while I'm at this point, tell me whether or not you are able to see, is the data big enough? Maybe what I'll do is I'll just zoom in a bit because I see the data looks a little bit small. So I'll do is I'll zoom in about, oh, that's maybe a bit too much. Let's make it there we go. I think that's readable. Hopefully you can still read that and see that. So if we go there, what I want to do is I want to see, does this order number exist on the returns sheet? Does it exist on this sheet? Let's go this one up also to about 250. I think that's okay. So let's quickly go back to order sheet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say has been returned. That's the question I want to answer. Okay. So let's quickly start. So the match function is my little starter. So I just type in match to say I want to match function. If I press tab, it automatically puts in a little bracket for me. Then it says to me, so the first argument, and this little tooltip is very useful because it tells you what it's looking for. So the first argument and the first thing that it wants from us is it wants to know what is the lookup value. So what is the value or the thing that you want to go look for? So if you think about it, in this scenario, I want to go look for the order number. So I just click on the order number. As simple as that. Okay, now it tells me that's in B2. You could have also typed it in B2. That would have also been okay. Then I press comma to go to the next argument. Then it wants to know the lookup array. So if you see the array is just a list of things. So you can have a list of cells, a list of rows, a list of columns. So it basically wants to know in what column do you want me to go look for that? In what range do you want me to go look for that order number? So what I will do is I'm currently with the lookup array. I'm going to click on the returns sheet. I'm just going to select the entire column B. So on the column heading, poof, column B, I'm saying, so go look for that order number in this entire column. Okay, and then that's done with the lookup array. Now I say comma again. And then the last one, so this little tooltip also helps you as well, because it says to you it wants to match type, which is an optional argument. So that's the fact that it's in square brackets tells me you don't have to give it, but in our scenario it's important that we do give it. So if you give it as a 1, then that means it will look for the closest match with less than the value that you're looking for. If you say 0, it means it must be exactly the same. If you say -1, it means it's going to look for the closest match after the value that you're looking for. So it's going to rank them, and if you say 1, it's going to go ahead. If you can say exact, it's going to give you the exact one, and if you go -1, it's going to give you the one just after it. Okay, so in our scenario, no, we don't want any guesses or close bys. We want the 0 because we want an exact match. Very important, exact match. If you close that bracket, now I'm done with my match function. So if I press enter, okay, now that's beautiful. So you might think to yourself, but that's an error. But that's exactly what we want. So the error, that error actually says to me, it is not available in your array so it's not available. So that means that this order has not been returned, or it does not exist on the returns sheet. So what I can do is if I copy this formula all the way down, so if I hover my mouse over this little square bracket in the bottom corner, and I double click there, then it copies that formula all the way down. And now we go scroll, 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 and oh, I saw one, but I went too fast. There we go. Oof, let's stop there. So now I see there's a number 15. So that's an interesting answer. So 15 means this order number, CA-2016-111682, that order number exists on the returns sheet in line 15. So let's see if I'm lying to you. So remember that's 111682. So I go to the returns sheet, I go to line 15, and CA-2016-111682. So that means that the match function has now told me that that order exists on the return sheet at line 15. So, and I mean, there will be many more. So if I scroll down, you see there's 62 and so forth and so forth. So all the matches, so I know my match function works. Now you might argue and say, but that looks horrible. So it's not wrong as what we see it there, but it doesn't present nicely. So to make it look pretty, I'm going to just nest that function that I've done. I've done the function, I'm finished with it. I just want to nest on the outside something to make it look pretty. So what we do, and I'm going to teach, this is the trick, this is how I do it. There's many ways of doing that, but this is the trick that I've learned. So I double click in the cell because I want to change this formula. So what I want to do is I want to, after the equal sign, before the match. So the match is the thing that I want to do. I want to keep the match. So what I can do is I can say, well, and the newer versions of Excel has this function. Older versions don't have it. So if you've got like a version of Excel 2010 or something, there's another way. I'll show you the other way now, but this function I'm going to show you now is only available on the newer versions. So what you can do is you can say is error. So I type in there is error and open brackets. I'm saying is this function an error? And then comma. It's not is error, I apologize. If error. If error. If this is an error, then I add a comma and I say, what do you want me to do if it is an error? If it's an error, that means it has not been returned. So I'm just going to say the word no in inverted commas, and then I'm going to close the bracket. So that, just repeat that. So it says if error, so it says if this function is an error, then I'm going to print no, meaning that if I can't find it in the match, then it hasn't been returned, so then the answer is no. I click enter, you see now it changes to no. If I double click on that little block there to take it all the way down, voila, scroll down, scroll down, scroll down, okay. So now so we can have another question and answer session, but if I look at this, now it says 161. So it doesn't really answer the question of yes or no. So maybe this new function that the newer versions of Excel has is not so wonderful. So I'm going to show you the function that will work on all versions of Excel. So the older versions, it will also work. Okay, so let's quickly go back now. Sorry, so we go back there. So I'm gonna just go back to the where I was before I started with the if error. So I'm just gonna take out the if error and just have it at the match again. So the match was correct. The match is still right. Okay, let's quickly just modify it a little bit more. So now I'm going to teach you what they call a conditional function. So it's a bit of a little bit more tricky one, but one that's very, 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 very useful. I cannot explain how useful this function is. So it's called the if. So if has always got two paths. So let me just quickly explain how the if works. I'm just creating a sheet just to define it. Okay, so what does if do? Okay, so let's just quickly say. So if has always got two things. It wants three things from me. It wants from us a test. What is, let's say, is something true? And it's going to do, if true, then do this. And if false, then do this. Okay. So that's basically what an if function does. So if we think about it, so the if function is giving me a test saying, test if 1 is equal to 1. If 1 is equal to 1, then you do whatever is on line 3. If 1 is not equal to 1, so in other words it's false, and that's a misspelling there, then you do whatever is on line 4. So, sorry, my Excel crashed a little bit on me now there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just go here, and I am going to, so this is now just a different version of Excel, but what I'm going to do is I want to put the if again. So we say equals if 1 is equal to 1, then you say yes. If 1 is not equal to 1, then you say no. That's a very straightforward, simple example of the if function. So now I'm saying 1 is equal to 1. Okay, so I'm just going to zoom in a little bit here so you can see it a bit better. That's better. So let's quickly do this. Let's say true. So we say instead of, so we say if that is true, then say yes. Else, you say no. Okay. So it's now saying yes. If I change that to 1 is equal to 2, then it will say no, because that is false. 1 is not equal to 2. Okay, let's see if my other Excel has now started responding. It has not. It is not responding. I wonder why it's not responding. Sorry, technical difficulties. It happens when you do things live. Hey, that's not fun. I wonder if I just close it. Okay, it's completely frozen on me. I'm just going to quit it quickly. Sorry, technical difficulties. Just give me a few seconds to sort this out. Let's start that Windows again. It's basically restarting my computer. So disappointing when that happens. Apologies to all of my, let's see how many people, I can't say how many people is looking now. Hey, okay, but anyways, so what can we do except wait for Windows? So now it would be fun if I had some dramatic music that I can play. Okay, let me do this quickly in the interim while we're waiting for Windows to start up. So let me just explain. So the if function, as I said, is basically a logic function. So what we're going to do now, the goal that I wanted to achieve before I got cut off there, was to say if the match function gives me an error, so that not applicable or not available error, then I want to say, yeah, no, it hasn't been returned. But if it is not an error, I want you to say yes, so it has been returned. So I don't care about what row number on the returns sheet it was. I just want to say yes or no. So that's where, so the match and the if kind of go hand in hand, unless you're happy to deal with the hash NA, because the hash NA is actually correct. It's saying there that it's not available on the sheet, but if if you see that in the Excel file, you're going to go, oh, this thing's full of errors, it doesn't make sense. So yeah, apologies. No, I'm sorry, this computer of mine is really acting up today. I don't know why it's doing this to me. It is at least busy loading up again, so it's almost there. Let me see. So maybe what I can do is I can show you the if function, and then we just come back to that Excel file while when we're up and running again there. Okay, so let's just cancel that. So just want to show you. So the match function. So we had a match function. We said match B2 to some other range. Let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, and we said false. Exact matches only. Okay. So maybe what I can do as well is address this elephant in the room, is that sometimes I know that some people say, but no, this is now saying semicolons. You see, it's got the semicolon to separate the arguments instead of the full stop. So usually on the other Excel, it was a comma, like that, and like that. So if you have semicolons and you want the semicolons, by all means, there's nothing wrong with it. You can go ahead and use the semicolons as they are. But if you want you don't want the semicolons, you want commas, like I've got commas, then that is in your regional settings. So if you go to your computer, you go to region and language, your regional settings, there's two settings that you need to change there for Excel to use a comma instead of a there's additional language settings there, and it's basically the list separator. There we go. It's the additional settings. It's very well hidden. So it's this guy that's causing your problems. So what you want is your decimal symbol to be a full stop. Your digit grouping, I just have it as a space. You can have it as something else. and your list separator needs to be a comma. And the same with the currency tab. It's the same principles. Decimal symbol with a full stop, digit grouping with a space. Then, because the commas then open, freely available, then Excel will use the comma instead of the semicolon. Okay, so here we are. So I'm not going to recover the information because I already have all the way to if, so it's perfect. So let's go back to our order sheet. I'm going to just do this now. So I'm going to say, I'm going to keep my match function. I'm going to add in front of the match function an if function. I'm going to say if, and then I'm going to say, what is my test? So if that match function is an error, so I have a function that says is error. So is that function an error? If that function is an error, then if I say comma, it says what's the value if you want true. So if it is an error, that means the order was not returned. And then I say comma again to go to the next argument, value false, otherwise the order was returned, semicolon, not semicolon, inverted comma, close bracket, and voila. So now the order has not been returned, but let's see the other side of the coin, where we go, there's a yes. So now I've got this beautiful list, and if I want to see all my returned orders, all I have to do is click on that little block there, and say I want to see all the returned orders, and voila. All my returned orders. Okay, so that's the match. The match is nice when you just want to compare two lists to each other and you don't specifically care about the information from the other sheet. Okay, but there's sometimes that you've got two lists and you want to take information from the one list and bring it into the other list. So let's quickly set up an example. I'm just going to quickly clear this filter. So we got back our original order list. So let's say I want to build an order lookup. Order lookup. Oopsie, sorry, that's horribly spelled. Order lookup. So I want to, for example, say I want to put in an order number on my order lookup. Sorry, I didn't press Control C there. I pressed something else. Control C. No, come now, computer. Control C. There we go. So we go to order lookup. I want to say, I want you to use this order number and go and look up what information do we want to see. Let's say we want to see the account name and the account holder. That's two columns I want to see. Let's just make it look like that so it looks a little bit better. And what else do I want to see? Well, this is going to be a good example already. Let's say I want to see the yeah, that's about okay. I'm going to show you something else now. So first, this is unique because each order will only ever have one account number and one account holder. Okay, although it's got multiple lines on it. So this is going to be what we call a V lookup. Now a V lookup. The V in the V lookup. Let's quickly just create a sheet just to explain that quickly for us. So the V lookup, you've got a normal lookup as well, one is a lookup, but the V lookup is the most common one because most of our data, especially in South Africa, run down, it runs vertically. So that's what the V stands for. The V is a vertical, and then lookup obviously is to look up something. Okay, so it's a vertical lookup. So we're going to go horizontally is across. So you also there's another function called an H lookup. I'm going to show you the H lookup now because I can make this a little bit more useful. But in our case, we want a vertical lookup. So it's because the order number is in the same line as the information that I want to go and fetch. Okay, let's go back to our order lookup. So the VLOOKUP has got one more argument than the match. So if you can master the match, then the VLOOKUP is easy because you just add one function to the VLOOKUP. So if I type in equals VLOOKUP, because that's what I want to do, I want to look up something in a vertical list. So it asks me what value do you want to look up. So I want to look up that order number. Because you understand. So it's the same as the match. You say, this is what I'm looking for. So I'm going to say comma. So now it says to me a table array. Previously it was a lookup array. It was just because it only wanted one column. In this argument I want a table. A table consists of multiple columns, multiple rows. Okay, so the table column is the order sheet, and now I'm going to select from column B all the way to where I've got the account holder and account name. So that's why I said it's important that the data is clean, because if this order ID example wasn't on the total left, you wouldn't have been able to use this function either. So the information that you look for must be to the right of the information that you're looking at. Okay. So it's column. So while I'm hovering it and while my mouse is held in, you'll see right at the top right. I unfortunately can't move my mouse cursor there, but there in the corner, you see it says you've selected about 1 million rows and 7 columns. That means that my table starts with column 1. So the order ID is column 1, has been returns column 2, the style datum, and then column 6 and 7 is the account holder, and this, okay, that goes to segment. I don't want to go there. I want to come back 1 column. So I want to go column B is number 1, column C is number 2, column D is number 3, E is 4, account number is in 5, and account holder is in 6. Okay, now I release the mouse. So that has given me orders, exclamation BG. Now I say comma. So now it wants to know what column number do you want to get out of that list. So I want column, I've said 5 and 6. So 5 is the account number, 6 is the account holder. So I'm going to say 5 because it's number 5. And then the last argument again is that same one that we had on the match, but this time we only have a true or a false. So either you want close by, a proximity match, or you want the exact match. So in our example, we don't want the order that's closest to the order number that I'm looking for. You want that specific order number. So I'm going to say false, meaning an exact match. So 0 is the equivalent of false. It's on or off, true or false is the same thing. So I'm going to close the bracket. And I'm going to press enter. Let's see if that worked. And voila. So now it's given me BH11710. So that order number that I selected, BH11710. Let's use a random different order number. Let's see if that lookup works. So I'm going to choose this order number. I'm going to plug that in there. And voila, changes my account number to JM. Okay, so maybe I'm just zoom in on this a little bit. That's not the zoom button that I'm looking for. There, so you can see the formula a little bit more clearer. So I'm going to do the same formula again. I'm going to do it manually, and then I'm going to show you the other options as well. So I'm going to say equals. I'm going to do it a little bit faster this time. And the function is a vertical lookup, open bracket. What value am I looking for? I'm looking for the order number. Where am I looking for it? I'm looking for it in my orders table from column B to column G, which is column number 6. I'm say comma 6, comma 0 for false, exact matches only, close bracket, and there is my account holder. And voila. How's that? Easy enough. Okay, so it does take practice. The VLOOKUP and both the HLOOKUP, all of them are very tricky to comprehend. But once you snap them, once you get them the first time, it's easy from that point. So I tried to explain it the way that it made sense and the way that it clicked in my head. So hopefully that makes it click in your head as well, so that you can also then benefit from the power of this function. So now a few gotchas that I want to show you. So one gotcha is if I didn't put this formula in manually, let's say if I copied it across, this would have stopped working. And the reason why this would have stopped working is because there's two things that happen when you move a formula down. So if I copy the formula down, let's just compare. This one's looking at A1 and going from B to G. So this one is looking at A2 going from B to G. Because I moved the row down 1, it assumed that I didn't want to refer to A1 anymore. It assumed that I want to refer to A2 because it's in the same row. So if you don't want that to happen, what you can do is while you're entering that value, the A1 or whatever the range is, you can press F4 on your keyboard, and that adds these dollar signs. So if you press it once, it adds a dollar in front of both the column number and the row number, meaning that it doesn't matter if I copy it vertically or horizontally, both the column number and the row number will stay exactly the same. So I always see that as a lock. So you're locking the column, and if you understand, so I'm saying this is locking column A. You'd rather do it there. Locking column A, locking row 1. So it doesn't matter if I copy it left, right, to the middle, but it doesn't matter. It will always ever refer to A1. Okay, so that's if you press the F4 key once. If I press it again, see now I'm only locking the row number. If I press it again, I'm only locking the column number. And if I press it again, I'm back to a relative reference. So relative to where I am, it will move the row numbers and the column numbers up and down. Press F4 again, because in this kind of scenario, the account number, the order number that I want to look for will always ever be in A1. It will never be somewhere else. Okay, now the other problem, okay, sorry, this must just become 6, obviously, because it's the next column. So the other problem that you've got is if you move it across, but that's the same gotcha where I had. Now it doesn't work anymore. Why? So the A1 is still A1, which is right, but now look what happened to the orders. Orders became C and H. Because I moved it to the right, I moved it horizontally. So the same principle applies. So I want to say I want to lock column B and I want to lock column G. So if I copy it across, it remembers column B and column G. Okay, that's one gotcha that people often find, is that it works when I do it manually, but if I copy it down, then I get issues. Okay, so the next one I'm going to show you is a little bit more tricky. So this one I don't suggest you venture into until you've mastered VLOOKUP and match. But it's a combination of VLOOKUP and HLOOKUP. And the reason why I'm going to show you this one is because oftentimes your data changes under you. So let's say, for example, I now suddenly realize, oh, but I don't want this column here, so I'm going to delete this column. And I think this one is so this one wasn't there in the beginning. Now look at my order lookup. Oh, snap, now I've got a problem. It doesn't work anymore. Why doesn't it work? It doesn't work because it's changed my range, because of I physically changed the structure of my sheet. But even if I didn't have that issue, if my range stayed exactly the same, I still have the issue with the fact that it's not the right information. The information is incorrect. It's not looking up the account number, it's looking up the account name. So what you can do is you can add an HLOOKUP to determine in what column number is the account number, and then use that as this argument for your VLOOKUP. You can say, I don't know that it's always going to be column 5, it might move. So what you then do is I always suggest you just do your formulas individually. First do it outside and then you put it inside. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, this time I want to do an HLOOKUP. I want to look up the account number, the name of the column. And now because it's a HLOOKUP, so it's a horizontal lookup, that means that the thing that I'm looking for must be in the first row. Okay? Not an HLOOKUP, I want to do a match. You must not know a match. Apologies. Match. Match. So I want to say I want to match the account number, but instead of now choosing a column, the lookup array is now going to be a row. So I'm going to choose the entire row there, but I can't choose the entire row because column A is actually invalid. I must go from there all the way to the end of the data. Okay. So that tells me that account number is in column 5, and when we counted it manually, we agreed. Yeah. So I'm going to copy that information, but this time without the equal sign, because I want to use it somewhere else. I'm going to copy it. Then there, instead of showing the 5 there, I'm going to paste that match function in there. And now I've got a function that if I change this, if I say 5, it's supposed to be 4. Apologies. B to G, it's supposed to be -1, because the line number, I think, in the beginning there. There we go, there's the account number. It's quite interesting, I'm missing something there. From B to V, so B is toch the right one. 1, 2, 3. Oh, it's because it is column 4 now. Okay. But it starts at 1 and the match says it's 5. Okay, so it's -1 there. So it's -1. And now if I change that account number to account holder, why is that not working? That's quite interesting. I'm missing something, obviously. Let me see quickly. That's account holder, account number. My match is not working. What am I missing? B to V maybe, that can't be it. Okay, this is seriously embarrassing. I have to go look at what I'm doing wrong here. If that 5, if I change it to account number, that 5 is supposed to change to a 4. Account holder. Okay, so this is seriously embarrassing. I don't know what's going wrong there. But okay, if you find out, just leave it in the comments, or as soon as I figure it out, I'll leave it in the comments. Okay, but that's basically what I wanted to show you. So I don't know what went wrong there, but my VLOOKUP works at least. Once I figure out what's going on with my HLOOKUP, I'll fix that. It's this section there. I wonder what I'm missing. I didn't say exact matches only. There is comma 0 in the match, huh? Exact matches only. Otherwise, it's giving me the closest match. That's it. That's the problem. Okay, sorry. So this guy, I didn't put in the comma 0 at the end to say it must be an exact match, and that's why it didn't work. So if I want to, so just copy that down. Let's see what went wrong there. It is still referring to account holder, but that's referring to B2. It mustn't be B2. It must be B1. It must always be the row with the F4s to lock it in. So now any column you want. If I want the Bestel datum, then I go to my order lookup. I change this to Bestel datum. Then that changes to, okay, dates in Excel is tricky because it formats it now as a number. So if you say show that as a date, it's 25/08/2014, 25/08/2014. Oh, that's a different order number that I've got there. Let's see if I copy that order number, paste. There we go, 8/11/2016. Okay, so I hope that was at least a little bit interesting. So I am getting better. This is my first of this type of stream, so you can see it's a little bit tricky. There's a couple of issues and bugs that I need to sort out, but that I'll work on. If there are any suggestions for future formulas that you want me to look at, or any other suggestions, just shoot me up. You can email me, or you can, so my email address, I'll give it to you now, is terence.enrichson@gmail.com. That's number 1. Or you can leave it in the comments of this video. I'll keep an eye on this for the next couple of weeks. Just let me know what you found interesting, and then subscribe if you found that this is okay, and then you will be notified again if there are future videos or streams coming up. Okay, have a great day. Thanks, guys.